Steel Curtain Network.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman of Steel Curtain Network, joined by Dave Schofield. No Brian Davis tonight. He is on assignment, as Dave likes to say, and so it's just the two of us. Dave, what's going on?
Oh, Jeff, what's going on is another great time watching the Pittsburgh Steelers like 3 hours ago. And then it's just like, oh, get through the rest of this game so we can talk about this greatness that was what to start. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, you really couldn't draw up a better offensive start or even just a start in general.
Defense, I mean, 3 and out for the defense, too.
We were messaging each other on Slack. I was like, this literally could not work out any better. I mean,
touchdown drive. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
But let's go to your knee-jerk reaction like we always do to start these post-game shows. Dave, what was your knee-jerk reaction after the game?
Knee-jerk reaction is just getting the job done from the top units. I mean, it's just, what more would you want against what is, I don't think anybody is doubting that this was better competition. Now, does it mean that their opponent played very well? They did not. But you know what? That's not the Steelers' concern. Once again, you just got to play the nameless gray faces out there. And the fact that Buffalo didn't have it together and had all those penalties and everything else, let them have the letdown after their first preseason win, not the Steelers. I talked about it on Stat Geek about not having that letdown. This was the opposite. I couldn't have thought, how in the world could you have built on last week? And they did.
Yeah. If I could think of one word to sum up my knee-jerk reaction in terms of the overall performance, it is prepared. The Steelers looked prepared. And I'm not saying that they game planned or anything like that, but you look at Buffalo. Buffalo looks sloppy. Penalties all over the place. They didn't play good, as Mike Tomlin would say, assignment football. The Steelers did the opposite. They actually looked prepared. They looked like they were up to the task. It looked like a team that was maybe circling this game and saying, you know what, it's our only home preseason game against what many people were saying is an elite AFC opponent. Let's go out there and put our best foot forward, and they did. They absolutely did. So kudos to the Steelers, both offense, defense, and special teams. We're going to get into all of that first.
I'm sorry. I had to look down because I just got a text from my brother. You know what it is?
No.
It's a picture of him and Kathy and Afton Ford.
Ah, nice.
After the game. It's fantastic.
Good.
And I already saw Afton in the live chat here. This is great.
Very good. All right, so Sean Manhan gave us $5. He said, Dave, if you were Dion Dawkins, how do you explain getting manhandled by undersized outside linebacker Nick Herbig, rookie against number 1 left tackle?
Jeff, I don't know if it was you or was it Jerome Betts or whoever.
Jeremy was working the SCN account.
He was working. I can't remember if he tweeted something you said or you tweeted something. It said, I can't remember. But it was someone that said, this is what they talk about when they mean bend. I mean, did you see that out there? I mean,
I think that was Jeremy.
That guy I think it was Jeremy. Man, he got so low to the ground when he came through for that sack. It was crazy. How do you explain that? Coach Tomlin said in his post-game press conference, those guys, let's see, what did I say exactly here? That they bring energy and emotion. And he loves that it's energy and emotion because it shows they know what they're doing. And man, Herbig was bringing it on the second drive. He was out there on the second drive bringing it. It was great.
Yes, and I was happy to see him play against some starting caliber players, and he was still doing Nick Herbig things. One thing I've learned, since we're talking about defenders, edge rushers, and that was the question that Sean posed. If you listen to TJ Watt, whether he was on Ben Roethlisberger's podcast, which was a great episode, or whether he was talking with Brian Baldinger of the NFL Network at training camp, and they posted this on Twitter where he's literally showing him what he does. And it goes to show that the pass rushers, if you don't have elite height, that's not necessarily a bad thing, i.e. James Harrison. He's going to get underneath you, and either you're going to hold him or he's going to get underneath you in the bend and he's going to get around the edge.
Yep.
It's a good thing that Nick Herbig also has elite get off. He has good speed. it looks now like when you looked at this pass rush tonight, you had Highsmith, who was harassing Josh Allen. TJ Watt was getting triple teamed every time he rushed the passer. But then you bring in Marcus Golden, who looked good. Nick Herbig.
He gets a sack on that play unless they hold him.
Exactly.
I mean, end of story. And I do want to say something because it was brought up in the live chat. The Steelers, I know we'll get to the numbers. Technically, Alex Highsmith did not get a sack in the game because Josh Allen ran past the line of scrimmage and then ran backwards when he got him behind the line. But once the quarterback passes the line of scrimmage, it's not a sack. Instead, it was a fantastic tackle for loss. Yeah.
All right. So we will talk about all these players, all the big plays that were made as we break down the numbers like we always do. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. And let's start with the quarterbacks. One, Kenneth Shane Pickett, who started the game, played two drives. We'll put it that way. Finished 3 of 4, 43 yards passing, 10.8 yard average, threw a touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks for a 149.0 rating. Let's talk about Kenny Pickett first. Dave, not as, only threw the ball 4 times, threw it 7 times last week. What were your thoughts on KP8?
I tell you, if Steelers fans are going to be mad about anything, you've got to really be concerned about the free fall of one Kenneth Shane Pickett. I mean, he had 4 less completions. He had less yards. His quarterback rating plummeted from 149.7 down to 149.0.
He is joking. People don't go nuts in the live chat. He is literally being sarcastic.
I mean, no, in other words, yeah, I'm glad you, thanks for did anyone take me seriously? You know what? There might have been something.
There's someone waking up on Sunday morning, listening to this in audio saying, what is he talking about? He looked great.
Now, bottom line is Kenny Pickett was so efficient the first game. He had less numbers because the offense was even more efficient this game. That's why the number, I mean, it's Jeff, what more could you want out of it right there? Yes, there was not much of our opening line, pick it up Pickens. It was an early, I think it was a 3rd down conversion to Pickens. Yep. Was that his only target?
Yes. Yeah, 1 catch on 1 target.
Yeah, and I mean, so it was a great play, and then you get the great run. It just kind of goes to show, oh my goodness, I'm getting into things I shouldn't get into. Kenny Pickett, great job. I don't know what else he could have done even better from last week, and yet he did, and that's our quarterback.
Well, how nice was it? And this ties in with Kenny Pickett. You have the 54-yard, I think it was 54-yard, Calvin Austin return, sets the Steelers up around the 25-yard line, and the very first play from scrimmage, boom, Pat Freiermuth touchdown.
Yeah.
It wasn't a run between the tackles or we're just going to, swing it outside to like a bubble screen to the wide receiver. They were aggressive. Kenny Pickett threaded the needle again over the middle. There's nothing to nitpick. You could say, well, he had an incompletion. Think about what that says. Think about what people would be saying. If someone is there saying he had an incompletion, the dude hasn't had, they haven't punted when he was the quarterback yet since the 3 drives. It's been 3 touchdowns. So not much to complain about.
And I do want to say something. I said it was a 3rd down conversion. It was a 1st down. It was a 2nd down conversion to George Pickens. The 3rd down conversion was to Allen Robinson.
Yes. And I knew that I knew the pass to Pickens went for a 1st down. It just wasn't on 3rd down.
Yes, it was on 2nd down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
All right. The other quarterbacks were just kind of meh. Mitch Trubisky, he finishes 10 of 13, 78 yards for a touchdown to Connor Hayward. He was sacked once for a 116.8 rating. Mason Rudolph, 5 of 7, 52 yards, 7.4 average. He was sacked once for 92.6 yard rating. Tanner Morgan does not throw a pass. He was sacked once and had a 0.0.
Oh, he got
rating.
smacked hard.
He did. Yes. So any other thoughts on the quarterback play? It seemed like a pretty big drop off, but when you look at who was snapping the football again, that might.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me to talk more about the other quarterback play, I would have to talk about other things that we're going to talk about eventually. So I should just say this: Kenny Pickett should already be taking his offensive lineman out to dinner because, and that's part of the reason why I said I don't want to see Kenny Pickett in the game, other than if the starting offensive line is out there, just because I mean, it's common sense. We saw why tonight.
Okay, so we talked about the quarterback play, Kenny Pickett. Let's just get it out of the way. Can we talk about Kendrick Green?
Well, we can talk about the offensive line in general, but in doing that, we're going to
say besides Kendrick
we're going to
Green?
talk about Kendrick Green. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
It was bad again for a second
I
straight week.
I said this on the Mike Tomlin recap that just was published right before we did this. That my brother kept texting me during the game about things with Kendrick Green, and he's telling me these things like 3 plays before they happen. Right. So I'm just like, come on, Rich. But he's like, oh, Kendrick Green's so bad. Also, I mean, I put it in the knee jerk. I did the knee jerk reaction article tonight because Rich was at the game, and I also put this out on Twitter. I'm like, penalties are to the Bills as Kendrick Green is to the Steelers. They just absolutely crush what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I feel like I'm piling on the guy. In my winners and losers column, you could probably guess where Kendrick Green is going to fall for the second straight week. And I feel like I'm piling on him. And I even asked myself as I was getting the column together after the game, I was like, is this justifiable? And I have to say that it is. You have a bad holding call, which thank the good Lord NFL Plus was going through a major brain fart and I missed it. But still, so that was
bad. Rich told me that's the only reason I knew what happened.
So he had a holding call. Another bad snap. Mason Rudolph was not ready for that ball to be snapped.
Can I say something about that?
Sure, go ahead.
The snap, I think I know what Green was trying to do, and it was a terrible decision.
Let me guess. He's trying to get him off sides?
I think he thought the defensive guy was in the neutral zone, so he snapped the ball before he had a chance to get back. Major fail.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what happens when you try something and it fails. Yeah, exactly. And so the missed assignments, not so much. He just doesn't look like an actual center. So my thought process is, are they going to have this guy be the backup center in week 1? You can't. You can't. If he's a center against starter caliber players, what we saw Ben Roethlisberger's last year is his rookie. He hasn't looked like he's gotten any better, in my opinion. So
that's the concern. After not seeing him for a year, you just hope that he was really improving in practice and that he just never got a chance because no one ever got hurt. The last game was pretty bad, and he was even one of my 5 players that really needed to, had really needed to step up in this game in order to show what they could do, and he went in the wrong direction. Jeff, it was really bad before that snap.
Yeah,
even before that snap. Now, the one sack that was given up and they ended up kicking a field goal. Technically, it was Broderick Jones' guy that got the sack. And I know there was, some of the people there like, oh, Broderick Jones got beat on that. Broderick Jones' guy's not going to get that sack if Kendrick Green doesn't, right as soon as he snaps it, get absolutely just thrown into the backfield.
Right.
And made Mason Rudolph have to step off his line. And then Broderick Jones' guy was able to then get it. He was going to get sacked whether that play happened with Jones or not, because of what happened with that. But I don't know what else they're going to do. Can it be Nate Herbig? We don't know because he's injured right now.
Yeah.
Could it be Spencer Anderson? Did they even give him any snaps at center? I don't know that they did there.
Maybe in the fourth.
I was trying to get everything done so we could do the show towards the end, where when I can't rewind what I'm watching, I don't focus on the line as much because I like to know what the play is and then watch the line. So I'll have to check that out tomorrow after the replay.
Okay, well, let's talk about and Tyler W. gives us $2. He said it's not only the 53, it's about his replacement. Who?
Yeah, that's the question right now.
Yeah, and you got to think they're going to be scouring the waiver wire once players are cut to try and find someone they deem to be worthy. But I want to talk about the running game a little bit, and Crystal Privet gives us $2. It's a good segue. And says McFarland is not a goal line running back. Sheesh. No, he is not.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know that any of that was McFarland.
The offensive
that was the offensive line. The entire unit was not good. I mean, and they're trying to run Anthony McFarland right up the middle when Kendrick Green is your center, and he's just getting pushed off the ball. So you're already trying to get around your lineman who's a yard deep into the backfield as soon as you get the handoff, if not more. So I don't know if that was as much McFarland. I don't know who could have done better with that, because there was a big drop off in the offensive line tonight after the first unit.
So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they end up running for 121 yards, and everyone's like, wow, that's 121 yards. That's not bad. 62 of those came on one carry to Jaylen Warren, and they finished with a 3.7-yard average. If you take away that 62-yard run, those numbers do not look that impressive. I didn't think the Steelers ran the ball particularly well. They never, even with the starters, outside of the Jaylen Warren run, they never really got the push that I want to see. I guess what I'm thinking and what I'm expecting from a visual standpoint is to see them blowing people off the ball. I haven't seen that yet. Dave, do you see it the same way, or do you think that there's a little bit more?
See them blowing off the ball?
Or just running the ball effectively? Well, it just doesn't seem to be there.
The blocking on that Jaylen Warren touchdown run was phenomenal. Isaac Seumalo, number one, Dan Moore, James Daniel. Basically, it was fantastic.
Johnson, Shannon White.
Down the field. Yes, absolutely. Down the field, Deontay Johnson helps for him. But I mean, that run was going for 15 yards based on the blocking. And then he took it to the house. I mean, really, when you're talking about the offensive line, they are not giving you runs typically longer than 7 or 8 yards based on their blocking. That's basically all the further they're getting in a typical play. When the running back busts it, there's more to it than that. But that was just great blocking on that play. But honestly, the two Najee Harris runs, I'd like to go back and look at a little bit more, because they were just kind of I don't know if it was Harris, the line, whatever. All I know was that one play that everyone's going to look at and think about. That was some phenomenal blocking.
I'm going to be doing a Let's Ride podcast on this topic at some point during the week, maybe even for Monday. And I just want to reiterate and kind of tease this a little bit. All these Steeler fans are saying, oh, Najee Harris needs to have a seat and take. It doesn't need to be one or the other.
No, it doesn't.
The two can coexist. And what you saw tonight in this game was exactly what a coexisting backfield would look like. Najee Harris gets those tough yards. Jaylen Warren has a next level burst that Najee doesn't have. If Najee Harris is running the ball on that the run that Jaylen Warren took for plus 60, he's probably going to get a 15-yard gain or something like that, and he's going to be taken down. It's a nice gain, first down, move the chains. He just doesn't have that breakaway speed. It doesn't have to be, oh, Jaylen Warren is now the starter. Who cares? If they're both playing good football, it's only going to make the Steelers offense that much better. So think about it in that regard. So I'd love to see a little bit more production from the running game. Nonetheless, it is what it is. Let's talk about the passing game a little bit and the pass catchers. Talked about the quarterbacks. So Gunnar Olszewski ends up leading the team with 5 catches and 41 yards. Pat Freiermuth, 1 catch for 25. Xavier Valade, I believe that's how
Xavier Valade.
There you go. He had 1 catch for 22. Anthony McFarland, 2 for 18. Connor Hayward, 2 for 12 and a touchdown. Calvin Austin only had 1 for 12. Allen Robinson, 1 for 10. George Pickens, 1 for 8. You get where I'm going with this. Really,
lots of ones.
Lots of ones. They had a lot of short fields because of the takeaways. There were a lot of times where they didn't have to travel down the field. Heck, think about the starters. The 54-yard punt return. Steelers are set up right outside the red zone. Touchdown. There you go. What were your thoughts on the pass catchers, Dave?
Well, I mean, the only one who really had any volume of catches, because he was the only one who had any volume of targets, was Gunnar O. And I'd have to look to say, I assume he was on the field for the other stuff, but no targets for Deontay Johnson. No. But that first team offense was out there so little, and what they did was so great. You can't complain. I felt that the pass catchers did a nice job with everything. I mean, look, Darnell Washington, 1 for 6, drew 2 pass interference penalties in the end zone on the same drive. But I mean, how smart was it of Mitch Trubisky that, oh no, I'm scrambling. What am I going to do? Hey, I've got this huge tight end. I'm going to throw it up in the air in his direction and see if he can make a play and everything. So his impact was there. Liked to see Cody White got interfered with and still caught the ball.
Yep.
So, those kind of things. So he had another catch in there, but it was interference. Overall, I don't see anything. No, I don't think anyone stood out in a bad way. So to me, the only loser from the group was Hakeem Butler because apparently he was injured, didn't play.
Yeah, that's tough. And at the same day, Miles Boykin makes a great special teams play, which basically to me solidifies his spot on the roster. He was the one that downed the punt inside the 5, I believe.
Or he knocked it out, and I think then Kuntz jumped on it.
Yeah. So this is some of those fringe players that we're talking about. We have a super chat here from Nicholas Gabriel, gives us $2. Said, does that make Najee not worth the first round pick? I'll give you my take on this. Who cares? You could go back and you could say in 2021, shoulda, coulda, woulda in the first round, worth, value, whatever. They drafted him in the first round. What you're trying to do is you're trying to put the best team out there in 2023. And if that looks like Najee Harris getting 50% of the carries and Jaylen Warren getting 15, and one's a first round pick and one's an undrafted rookie free agent, who cares? It all comes down to, is it working? And are they seeing success? That's what I hope. Does that equate to the 5th-year option? They don't have to make that decision right now. So let's see how 2023 plays out. Dave, anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because does it make him worth the first round pick? When Coach Tom was out there at practice and he's figuring out who's playing, and they're on the sidelines figuring out, the last thing they're thinking is, oh man, he was selected 24th overall. You're playing a football game. So we can talk about all we want, and I get why fans look at it, but really that's not going to go out there. Was it worth it? It's still TBD because we're still talking preseason. So let's see how the season plays out.
It's always 2020, right? Yeah. It's like when the ESPNs of the world do redrafts where they go back and redraft an NFL draft. Well, you go back and let's say a player like Travis Etienne ruptures his Achilles tendon. Of course, he's not going to go in the first round then to Jacksonville. He's going to be drafted later. It is literally one of those things that you can absolutely just confuse yourself and put yourself in a mental pretzel over. I just choose not to do it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to remind you, this is from Stat Geek from probably over a month ago when I was looking at running backs. The top 8 rushers from 2022, every one of them was drafted in either first or second round. So people saying that, you can find all this running back talent late in the draft. The ones that are getting the most yardage because they're probably getting the bulk of the carries are all first or second round draft picks.
Yep. That's a good point. And this past draft, there were 2 or 3 running backs taken in the first round, which was a shock. So take that for what it's worth. All right. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. For those that are watching live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever, where we're live streaming this, we're not going anywhere. On the audio side, if you're here listening to this in replay, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. All right, Steeler fans, we are back. We've already talked about the offense. It's time to dive headfirst into the defense. The defense that held the Buffalo Bills offense to 0 points until, was it the fourth quarter, Dave?
It was 27-0 going into the fourth.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so before we even talk about the minutia of statistics, just what were your thoughts on the starters going up against Josh Allen and the starting Bills offense? They played the entire quarter, whereas TJ Watt, Cam, Minka, Pat Pete, I think they only played maybe 2 series.
I don't even know that they finished the second one because as it went a little bit longer, they subbed in, like they normally would for a defensive lineman or outside linebacker. I'm thinking Cam and TJ. I'm not sure about the secondary. I'll look at the snaps when the PFF grades come out because they do that. But yeah, you're right. They didn't play more than 2, and I don't even know that they played all the second one. But I mean, they held them to 3 and out on the first drive. And I mean, even at one point in there, you're like, that's a matchup I'd go after. Nothing against him, but do you really want Alex Highsmith defending Stephon Diggs? When he knocks the ball down, that's a pass defense right there. Yeah. I mean,
I didn't have that on my bingo card tonight.
I did not. Alex Highsmith getting, knocking down the pass to Diggs,
Yeah. I was really happy go back to that very first Bills drive. It was a 3rd and 2. They don't convert. The Steelers stand tall. They get off the field. I thought that spoke volumes to me. It was just no. It was a 3rd and 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like it was a third. It wasn't a 3rd and 12 or a 3rd and 10. Hell, even a 3rd and 8. For the Buffalo Bills offense, you're thinking 3rd and 2. They're probably going to convert that more than they don't. They don't. And that was when they punt the ball to Calvin Austin. We know what happens after that. And the game flips. It was almost like a reverse of week 5 last year in Buffalo.
Yeah.
The game just flipped on its head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, who set up that play there on that 3rd and 2? Who's the 3rd down killer? That's when Trent Jordan Watt. He got the pressure and the ball falls to nobody.
That guy's a freak. I swear. Like people say that people want to downplay what that guy does.
I don't understand how he's 3rd down. I talked about this. The one game. I mean, remember what show was that we got mentioned on because Jeffrey and I had written about it in our Vertex article where I don't even think it was last year, it was the year before, where TJ Watt single-handedly ended like the Browns' first 6 drives. And because of this, what he was doing on 3rd down. It's just something about 3rd down. TJ Watt just like the monster just comes out even more. It's crazy.
Absolutely. He absolutely does. It was good to see him out there. Tom Muir, who now goes by Tom Plays Games, gives us $2. He says, not $1 per W. Not yet. Thank you for the tip, though. We appreciate it. Hey, I hope you donate a hell of a lot of money to the program this year. We'll put it that way. All right. Let's talk a little bit specifics as it pertains to statistics with the defense. We'll talk about the passing attack of the Buffalo Bills, and we'll talk about, by proxy, the pass defense of the Steelers. So the Bills end up throwing for 267 yards, 26 of 37. Josh Allen, 7 of 10 for 64 yards. Matt Barkley, 7 of 12 for 93. Kyle Allen, 12 of 15 for 112. A lot of that came on that 2-minute drill at the very end of the 4th quarter. But you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers pass defense, and they ended up coming away with 3 interceptions. And they really did a good job. Pass defenses, Elijah Riley with 2, Nick Herbig with 1, Cole Holcomb with 1, Highsmith with 1, Porter Jr., Chandon Sullivan, and Lavert Hill all with 1. Like you said, 8 total pass defenses. What were your thoughts on the pass defense tonight, Dave?
I'd say I don't want to say that it was great because there were times I felt James Pierre was playing off too much, particularly on 3rd downs when he was out there later in the game. But overall, I mean, when you're getting your hands on the ball, it's the NFL in the 2020s. It's going to be passes being completed. It's the way that the whole league works. So it's not like they're shutting anyone down, but my goodness, I felt like at any time they could come away with the ball, and they did 3 times. Man, that Chandon Sullivan interception.
Yeah, something else.
I thought it was number 90. That's what TJ Watt does in that same position. He goes in, he jumps up, he bats the ball up in the air, and then catches it.
Yeah.
I did not expect that from him. Joey Porter got that interception. Some people are like, oh, well, they threw it right to him. That was an easy one. It's because he knocked the receiver off his route is what helped create that. And then, man, I think you said it. Where did you say it? It might have been where I was trying to follow a little bit, but I couldn't because of everything else. At steelcurrentnetwork.com in the open thread, you said about, I'm telling you right now, Elijah Riley's making this roster.
Yeah.
You've said that for weeks, Jeff.
Oh, I know.
You don't need to say it right now. You've said it for weeks.
Our source said the Steelers are really high on this guy. He's had a great offseason, a great camp. He just has to put it on tape, but he's doing it.
But now there's also some people that are confused. Like I heard people talking about him as a cornerback. He's not a cornerback.
No.
He's a safety. But a safety can play in the slot. Right. So he can play the slot. But if he's going to be out there, and like he was out there in his more natural position tonight and other times as a safety. So they're like, oh, is he a cornerback to make it? No, it's just, he gives you safety depth as well. You don't have to worry about the cornerback depth and things of that nature. but he made the plays on defense and he made the plays on special teams.
He's
So,
proving his value.
I mean, I don't see any reason now how they could not keep him on the 53 after 2 games. There's still one more to go, but still.
And they gave him the starting shot in that slot role over Chandon Sullivan tonight. If you notice, Chandon Sullivan didn't get in until the second team was in there in the third team. And so I'm sure it's just, hey, we're just giving him an opportunity, and he's running with it. So Elijah Riley's looking good. Patrick Peterson kind of getting acclimated again. Everyone said he played a little soft. He's a veteran. I'm sure he's not trying to get into the mix and injure himself in a meaningless preseason game either. So you got to take that for what it's worth. But we'll see. They didn't have any of the big communication errors I thought that we were going to see with these new players coming back into their roles with Minkah and Patrick Peterson. Cole Holcomb, I said on our Steelers preview podcast, I was waiting to see something from him. I saw more from him.
Yeah.
Nice
Mark tackle for loss towards the sidelines.
Mark
Robinson, handling that ball. Yeah.
He's starting to kind of come into his own. So good stuff.
He had a nice tackling of the catch.
Yeah.
Out in space, that's something you worry about with him in the passing game. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Crystal Privet gives us another $2. Says Nick Herbig is a starter. If you know, you know. Starter might be a little generous.
For 2023, I don't think so.
Might be a little generous considering who they have. Yeah,
exactly. Because first of all, do the Steelers like to start rookies right away? No. That's one. And two, look at who he's behind. He's going to get plenty of playing time. He's fine. My goodness. When was it we were really worried about the depth at outside linebacker? They make one signing and one draft pick ends up better than we're ready for, and they're in great shape.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where I want everyone out there that thinks they can be the Steelers GM in the whole scouting department. Now there are people, some of them are on our staff at SCN that'll say, I told you about Nick Herbig. I didn't say that. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy that's going to be, hey, look at me. I called this. I didn't call crap. I said
or even tell you don't have to watch the game. Just listen to them. They'll tell you how good they are.
For me, no, I'm not going that far, but still for me, I said that Nick Herbig was at best a special teams guy this year. Like, hey, come out, be a special teams demon, run down the field with your hair on fire and make a play.
Yeah.
He is proving to me, the guy that doesn't know a lot about these draft picks, that he's way more than that. He's way more than that. And that's a very pleasant surprise.
Jeff, this will be my third show this week saying this. I said early on, being a 4th-round draft pick, don't be shocked if he doesn't even get a helmet on game day. That's because I mentioned 2 years ago, rookie Buddy Johnson didn't get a helmet unless someone was hurt.
How in the world could they not give him a helmet now, though?
No way.
Yeah, there's no way.
No way. I mean, no way. And I mean, that's what I said before they ever stepped foot into training camp. You didn't really see much in OTAs. Just, I'm like, based on where he was drafted and then the Steelers signing Golden, that you're like, you don't have, he might be a guy that they're keeping and developing. And then you wait. No way. They can't be doing that. Yeah. He's up there and he needs to be getting some snaps every game.
For sure. Let's get Andrew Palladino gives us $10. Said Warren, Austin, Herbig, JPJ. You've got some season highlight level plays happening in game 2 of the preseason by some first time NFL names against first team Bills, nonetheless. This roster, though. Yeah, Andrew, thank you for the tip. We really do appreciate it. This roster is turning into something that is noteworthy, and we're talking about depth. I'll tell you quickly. I was cutting grass today before the game. I was listening to the Steelers pregame on. It was simulcast here over in Maryland, even on a local station that I can pick up on the radio. And some of the most negative beat writers, you're talking about your Jer Bear, Jerry Dulac, Bob Labriola, can be very negative at times. They were like, wow, like this Steelers roster is deep. Like it's not the way it normally is. And I think that's what Andrew's kind of pointing to there. And the fact that the depth was showing against the Bills. Absolutely it was. All right, let's talk about the pass rush quickly. The Steelers, they don't get to the number that we thought, only 1 sack technically, which went to Nick Herbig, which was a strip sack, worth noting there. But they did end up with 2 quarterback hits. Well, Toby Ndukwe, I think that's how you say the name, and obviously Nick Herbig with his sack as a quarterback hit. Dave, were you expecting more from that part of the team?
Well, when you talk about the first unit, you're like, for example, the TJ Watt play. They didn't get the sack, but they got enough pressure on Josh Allen to do that. Was it Herbig early on that also, kind of knocked the ball? They said it wasn't grounding because it was affected by the defender.
Yes.
They got pressure. They didn't finish to get it home. Yeah. So they got pressure, but they didn't get to necessarily finish it off. So it's one of those things it's not an area for concern, but it's something that you're like, come regular season, let's finish some of these off.
Yeah. This is a good question for you, Dave. Wilson Pava gives us $4.99. He said, who would you all put in a no helmet watch list? Agree that Herbig has earned a helmet week in and week out. Heck, maybe he could see first team snaps. I think barring injury, I don't.
Well, yeah, if an injury happens, I'm
sure.
I mean, think of how scared to death we were if we're like, oh my, what if TJ or Highsmith has to miss a couple games? Oh, what are they? Not now. I'm like, you know what? That they said about adding depth, they did. So no helmet watch list.
I'll give you one. Isaiah Loudermilk is on the no helmet watch list.
Just because he has been for so long. It's not that he's playing bad. It's just, he's one.
If Kendrick Green makes the team, he's on the list.
Well, bottom line, honestly, to me, because once again, there was no fullback snaps for Kendrick Green because, like I said, that's a waste of time if he doesn't make the roster at his position. You can't dedicate a fullback position for someone like that. That would just be ridiculously stupid. Because they gave it to TJ Watt, who played a bunch of special teams. Oh, now let's dedicate it to a guy that's not going to count as an offensive lineman or play special teams for us to use 2 snaps a game. That would be dumb. You can't do it. But to me, if Kendrick Green's going to make the roster, they want to use him at fullback. They got to give him a helmet. There's going to be a ninth guy. There's going to be a ninth. I'm going to shock you with this one. It could be Kevin Dotson.
Yeah, I can totally see
because
that.
If Herbig
is healthy,
if he's healthy and he's the main backup on the inside, and then if because you're dressing 8, if it's Herbig and I'm going to assume for now Jones, because the other tackles haven't shown anything that they aren't getting the job done, which is a good thing. You want your tackles to play well and Broderick Jones to play more when he plays great, which will be eventually. Could be sooner. Might be later. We'll see. Then if you have one more, I don't think you want it to be. I think you want someone who's position versatile. I like to say versatile.
Mm-hmm.
For your 8th, think of last year. Although he rarely played, he only played on special teams. And I'm not saying he was any good. Like Jesse Davis got a helmet every game, but that's because that guy could play like 4 different positions. That's why shockingly. Spencer Anderson. Now, I could see Spencer Anderson making the team and not getting a helmet either. But what I could also see him getting a helmet just because he could play so many. He could fill in so many spots. If someone that could only play one position like a Dotson could maybe not get a helmet. Depends on how many wide receivers they keep if they can give them all a helmet.
I could see someone like Gunnar O.
Yeah.
Being on the roster and not getting a helmet.
Getting a helmet, be ready to fill in when people go down, but being on the roster, getting a helmet. But remember, because you're dressing 48, if you're not bringing anyone up from the practice squad, you're only having 5 people on the inactive list, and one of them is your third quarterback who's dressing anyway. So there's only 4 people who won't be getting a helmet unless they bring up people from the thing. So, yeah.
Something to look out for there. Yep. Sean Manahan gives us $2. He said, Steelers dominate the Bills while the Bungles tie the Falcons. Was there another tie? Because I know that the Browns and Eagles tied on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention.
No,
honestly, I knew Was it the Bengals? Did they play last? Yeah, I saw that the Falcons were on in the distance. I was at the casino last night, and there was a lot of TVs on, and I said, "Oh, one of them has football. Oh, it's the Falcons. I should pay attention because the Steelers play them next week in the preseason." And then I said, "No, I need to split these aces."
Yeah. And we're being told, yes, they did tie 13-13.
Oh,
and then
geez.
the Browns tied the Eagles 18-18.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 ties
Yeah.
in that week. Wow, that's something else. All right, I do want to spend some time. We talked about the defense. We talked a lot about specific players. I do want to donate a little bit of time to the special teams. I mentioned them early on. I thought there were some really good performances by Chris Boswell was perfect. So that was good to see. First time kicking this season, this preseason, I should say. But even with Presley Harvin, 5 punts, he had an average of 38. 5 of them were downed inside the 20.
All 5.
A couple of them were downed inside the 10. I wish that was another subset there.
Yeah.
So like inside the 10, I feel
he had 2 of them that were like at the 11 or 12.
Right. Yeah. A lot for no returns, which is great. You know, you're punting them high enough that they can't return it. They got to fair catch it with a long of 52.
Yeah, well, and because I wanted to specifically talk about this because you would come in and before the last punch, you would say, "Oh man, Presley Harvin only had a 30-some. He had like a 34.5 average before the last punt," and you're like, "Wow, that looks bad." No, the Steelers were on a short field. He was putting them inside the 20 and punting them with no return. That's big. You don't want to have the return. Then he comes up when he actually has space and is punting from, I don't know, where were they punting from? They were in their own territory, snapping from their own territory, not just him standing there. And he punts it down inside the 20, 52-yard punt, and Des Fitzpatrick gets down there and keeps it to a 2-yard return. I mean, that just kind of topped it off. It was a great night punting for Harvin because that last one allowed him to show that he could still punt for distance and give his guys time to get down there and cover.
Yeah, and then I get your thoughts on CA3. You know, I mean, his first return as a pro, and all the greats that I've watched in the Steelers uniforms return punts, whether you're talking about Santonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, they all had this ability to kind of wait. So they catch the ball, they hesitate slightly, they wait and see the hole, and then that's when they accelerate, and that's when they make a big gain. And boy, was he out. He got shot out of a cannon. It was a great punt return. Dave, what were your thoughts as you were watching him?
As I'm watching that punt, when it's exactly what you said. When he catches it, I'm like, are you going to go? Boom, there he went. But at the same time, part of that is you can't be so focused on where you're going to run. You've got to catch the football first. And Calvin Austin's fast enough. If he has to catch the football and it takes him a half second to then go where he's going to go very fast, it worked out tonight. And it will probably work out a lot of the time. That was a great return. He was smart on his one fair catch that he had. I think it was just one that he fair caught.
He was backpedaling. I was kind of upset. I thought he could have returned that one, but I don't think he
was going back, and the guy was right there. Yeah. Which showed, wisdom at the position. And that's and Coach Thomas said that before. And he's like, some of these guys just want to show that they can do in the return game. Part of it is showing that you're smart enough to know to fair catch it when it would be dumb not to do anything otherwise.
Yeah.
So I really liked what he brought there. It just goes to show that he could bust it at any time. And that's a great feeling to have. Yeah.
You can't teach speed.
No.
I do want to bring this up because we're talking about special teams. Matt Adam, he gives some props to Miles Killebrew. He got a hand on the punt, or at least got in the way and impacted the punt.
Yeah.
We both have had this guy off our 53-man roster predictions, which we will be doing again.
I brought him back this week. You didn't. I
didn't. No.
I brought him back.
When you make a play like that, whether he got his hand on the ball or not, he impacted the punt.
Yeah.
And he just has that knack. It's tough to keep him off the roster.
And it doesn't. Tell you one thing. People might not like him. They don't like the chewing gum. They don't like so many other things. But one thing Danny Smith can do is he can dial up a punt block.
Yes,
he can dial up a good rush at the punter with the things that they do. And I don't know if he got credited for blocking that punt, for getting a deflection, but whether he touched it or not, him being where he was caused that punt to be what it was, whether he hit it.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at some team statistics here before we wrap this show up. Interesting numbers for the Steelers. Third downs, they were 7 for 15. Not bad. When you look at red zone, or let's look at penalties. Holy crap. The Bills were penalized 13 times for 93 yards. Oh, man, that's insane. Steelers 4 for 26.
That's a lot of penalties for not going over 100 yards.
That is. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, one of them was for basically 0 yards. The second pass interference one, it just gave them new downs. But yeah.
The Steelers are penalized 4 for 26. Red zone numbers. I always like to look at the red zone numbers. Steelers finished 1 for 3. The Bills 2 for 3. In terms of time of possession, the Steelers won that by 31 minutes to 28:53. And then turnovers, obviously, we know the Steelers won that one. 4 takeaways, 1 fumble lost, 1 interception, and then the fumble lost, which Kendra Green snap, was the lone takeaway for the Buffalo Bills. So, all right, this is a great game.
Yeah, well, I want to say something about the penalties.
Yeah,
Steelers only had 4 penalties. 2 of them were on special teams.
Yeah.
So you want to clean that up and not have penalties on special teams, because that's one thing that can kill your special teams more than anything. Because one of them, it was an extra point, but I mean, it turned it into from 1 point into 2 points, and then I think the other one was early. But I mean, man, only 4 penalties. That's the kind of stuff I was wanting to see.
Yeah. This is a good question from Andrew Palladino. He gives us $5. Said, did you boys jump out of your seats tonight? Like, truly, I was over here acting like I do in a divisional game, was going nuts. I got to be honest. It's tough for me to watch this team and not get excited, even in the preseason. So, like, my kids are down here and we're all watching the game, and this Jaylen Warren run, like, we're all cheering, like, yes. I mean, it's a preseason game. No, I was getting very excited. Dave, did you?
Oh yeah. Well, and my normal television for watching was not readily available right at kickoff, because I was allowing somebody else to finish up something. But since but since last season, I installed a television that I can almost touch with my hand right here. So I actually sat right here and watched all that amazing stuff happen. Then I moved over into the more comfortable room with the couch and everything. But I sat right here at this desk with the computer right here, watching that, and I just was kind of sitting back and like, yeah. And I'm screaming I don't want to, Ric Flairish woos whenever they score, just like I do during the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that for me, this is kind of my final thoughts, and I'll throw it over to you, Dave, is that you're seeing that this team could be really good. I mean, if obviously injuries are a key for all 32 NFL teams, so we don't have to say that because that's a given. We saw what happens last year when TJ Watt goes down in week 1 and how that can impact a season. But if all things go according to plan in regards of, I hate to say the word potential, man, they're brimming with it. And this could be a really fun season. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not even going to say they're going to make the playoffs. It could be a really fun season to watch. The offense looks improved. I haven't heard a lot of Matt Canada hate recently. It's interesting. But still, it could be a lot of fun. So those are my final thoughts. This game was fun. This post game was fun too. So Dave, what are your final thoughts?
All right. My final thoughts are we excited? My final thoughts are we excited? Sure. Is it okay to be excited? Absolutely. Does this excitement mean anything? Unfortunately, it doesn't. I mean, it shows us the hope and the killer P word that you were talking about of what is to come in the regular season. But if playing well in the preseason does not lead to playing well during the season, then this excitement was for nothing. It's great to have it. It goes to show what can be. And that's what's going to be even more disappointing if it doesn't translate. There's no reason for us to think that it wouldn't translate. And that's why you get excited. But at the same time, you don't win championships in the preseason. You just get ready to win championships in the preseason.
I said it on my Let's Ride podcast on Friday. I said it's all about progression, always taking steps forward. I felt the Steelers did that in a lot of ways tonight. Dave, you mentioned on your Stat Geek how last year it felt like they took a step backwards in week 2.
Yep.
Was not the case this year. That was good to see. I'm really curious how Mike Tomlin's going to handle the third preseason game, which is coming up on a short week in Atlanta. Will the starters play much at all? I'm sure they will. How much? We'll see. I don't know. Wilson Pava gives us $1.99. Said first Canada hate comment of the season. LOL. There you go. Someone's got to do it, right? Someone's got to do it. So, all right, Dave, good post-game show next week. I guess it'll be Thursday night that we will be back. It's a 7:30 kickoff, so it'll be a little later than this. Kind of like that 6:30 kickoff. That was nice. Actually kind of nice. So we will see you then. In the meantime, make sure you're checking out all of our content at SteelCurtainNetwork.com. Check out FansFirstSports.com as well for all sports-related content, not just the Steelers. And make sure you're listening to all of our podcasts anywhere where you find your podcast by searching Steelers or Steel Curtain Network, so you can check out my Let's Ride podcast, Dave's Stat Geek podcast, which are only on the audio side, not live streamed anywhere. So, all right, Dave, you good?
I am great.
Love it. I absolutely love it. All right, folks, we'll see you next time on another Steelers post-game show. Take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.